Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Again, you have the uncommon pleasure of listening to the voice of Olusegun Opeyemi or Dunton, host at the Burning Mic podcast, where burning national and geopolitical issues are discussed. It is my intention to discuss the burning geopolitical issue, the burning international political issue at the moment, but I cannot do this without again mentioning the ordeal of 36, 37, and 7 teachers that have been kidnapped in Oyo State since the 15th of March. It is very unfortunate that governments at both the subnational and national level continue to sit on their hands, clueless about what they should do and what they must do as part of their constitutional responsibility to guarantee the freedom and to secure the release of the Oyo kids and their teachers and the students in Borno State, and to, as a matter of fact, forestall future occurrence of terrorism and insecurity in Nigeria. As you all know, several towns and villages that constitute the agricultural basis, the food security basis of our nation, these towns and villages have been deserted, and our nation continues to bleed billions and billions of dollars every year. So the country is in danger. The leaders are clueless. Well, maybe it's a kind of misjudgment to say that they are clueless. The truth of the matter is that evidence show that they are compromised, that they are complicit in the insecurity that is taking the lives of dozens and dozens of Nigerians every day. And just in case you don't know, academic institutions, most especially elementary and high schools across the country, some of them are shut down, and those that are not shut down, they are going to school in fear. The students and the teachers and the parents are sending their wards off to school in fear, not knowing which school will again fall victim to the next terrorist attack. So that is that on that. So now I feel I have taken some burden off my conscience before I can move efficiently and effectively onto the global stage, where we're going to be touching on the memorandum of understanding that is being signed between the United States and Iran. We should also state categorically clear that this is a tripartite or a threesome kind of war where United States allied with Israel, which is another nuclear power in the Middle East, have launched a war, unprovoked aggression against Iran since February 28, 2026. We should also state that the United States is nearing a peace deal, nearing the signing of a memorandum of understanding with Iran, but Israel is kicking and whining and has voiced its disagreements with the content and terms of this memorandum of understanding. So that gives us that raises our skepticism and our doubts about whether there is going to be a lasting peace in the Middle East, in spite of the facts of, I mean, it really doesn't matter whether U.S. reaches a kind of peace deal with Iran. We know that the U.S. Israel relationship is a kind of awkward relationship. I can still remember when the president of the United States was asked what leverage does the US has over Iran. So he was, forthright. He said the US has military leverage over Iran. But when he was asked what leverage it has over Israel, the president was at a loss of words, which actually tells you that in the US Israel relationship, the tail wags the dog, not the dog wagging the tail. So this memorandum of understanding between between the United States and Iran is much more of a pause than a peace deal. It is a pause deal because historically speaking, the United States is not a power that consider itself bound by international agreements. So tactically speaking and historically speaking, it seems that this post deal, rather than a peace deal, is another opportunity for the United States to go back as usual to the drawing board and replenish its um, depleted armory and stockpile. Yes, because as you know, the United States has been engaged in a proxy war in Ukraine since the February of 2022, and they have expended huge amounts of ammunition over there, and they are reaching a peace deal with Iran at this time. Well, not because Iran has defeated the United States, but most importantly, um, Iran has been able to inflict severe and high unbearable costs on not just the United States and its partners in the Middle East, but on the entire world. So this peace is coming on the heels of the fact that the United States has uh, um, is confronted with a strategic defeat against Iran. Strategic defeat for the United States and strategic victory for Iran. Victory is not always when you win a war kinetically. Victory is when your goals and your strategic goals at the beginning of the war that you had set out are met. But when you look at the press conference that President Trump held at the G7, you will quickly conclude that epic fury has turned epic folly for the United States. And we saw how President Trump discussed some of the terms of the MOU, and you would see that United States, rather than achieving its strategic objectives, is making, huge and generous concessions to Iran at this time. But the point is, I mean, Uncle Sam is a tricky fellow to deal with. Um, we don't know, but look, we already know. Looking at the historical pattern, we can tell that we can trust the paper on which the 14 points MOU is written on. But in this video, I'm going to be touching on some of the concessions that the United States has made, and it's so sad that U.S. is getting the short end of the stick after investing hundreds of billion on this military on this minor misadventure that the president of the United States called a minor military excursion. This is a cost excursion, we have said in the past, and several lives have been lost, and particularly pathetic is the double tap strike bombing of a Minap school where 175 children were killed by a Tomahawk missile launched by the United States. There is no longer doubt about this because in the in the press conference the president held, well, he was asked about this, and he said it was a mistake. And the point is, well, mistake or not, that is not an excuse. There is now an admission of guilt on the part of the president of the United States. Let him call it a mistake or not, but the point remains that that is not an excuse at law, and we now know that this Tomahawk missile came from the United States, and lots of lives have been lost as well. But look, we are going to discuss some of the concessions that have been made, and we can say that the United States was forced to make these concessions on economic ground. The president stated this copiously in the press conference that he held, and he said that this was done to avoid a depression. But we should say that there is already a mild kind of inflation, and Americans are paying double of what they used to pay before February 28th at the gas pump. And the world is also paying a very steep price for the minor military excursion or cost excursion undertaken by the President of the United States. And so, aside from the economic excuse, there is an energy excuse as well. The President of the United States said that the US was 4 weeks away from depleting its oil reserves. So, so as a result of that, it shows that the United States might have the military leverage over Iran, but Iran has serious economic leverage. And before the war, the Strait of Hormuz, which is a strategic choke point where about 21% of the energy demands of the entire world passes through. Iran immediately used this transit points as a choke, as a leverage, and partially blockaded the Strait of Hormuz. But in the end, after many exchanges of missiles and bombs, and despite the United States claiming that they have destroyed the leadership, that they have destroyed the military of Iran, well, they fell back to a blockade of Iran's blockade. That actually did not yield any military value for the United States itself. But in the end, President Trump is raising his hands in the air after realizing that his epic fury is an epic folly. And some of the concessions that the United States has also made to Iran, which many Americans see as a shameful defeat, is that, look, the President of the United States is now saying that Iran can continue with its nuclear program, which is civilian. And as a matter of fact, President Trump went as far as arguing for and on behalf of Iran, saying that, look, nations around Iran has a nuclear program, and is now saying he said it is common sense that Iran should have the right to enrich uranium for civilian use. Remember, before the war, in February, Iran has agreed to shut down its nuclear program, despite the fact that it has a right to enrich uranium under international law. Iran agreed to surrender its 60% enriched uranium stockpile. But now, after this aggression, Iran has gained a psychological and moral upper ground, seeing how it held the United States to ransom. Now they are walking back the same generous concessions that it made before February 28. So now the United States, President Trump, is realizing, is admitting that Iran shall have the rights to enrich uranium within its territory. Also, he said Iran has agreed to not procure or develop a nuclear weapon. This is not new. There has been for several decades a religious fatwa in Iran against the developments or the procurement of a nuclear weapon. So there is no change here. And at the same time, President Trump, who went into this war claiming that he wants to dismantle the ballistic missile program of Iran, is now, even as a matter of fact, walking that back, is arguing that Iran will now keep its ballistic missile program. And that is why we have called the epic fury an epic folly, as a matter of fact. And also, the economic angle of the memorandum of understanding has it that the United States is agreeing to release financial assets of Iran to it, which runs into billions of dollars, which was taken. I don't want to say stolen, which was taken from Iran, and they are going to give them back. And on this deal too, the United States is claiming that that they are going to guarantee Iran $300 billion worth of investments. It should be said that the United States is maintaining that it is not going to spend a dime of American taxpayers' dollar there. But look, for 47 years, Iran has lived under excruciating and bone-crushing sanctions to the point that they were economically blockaded. They could not trade. They could not be traded with, and multinational companies could not go there and invest in that economy. But now all of those sanctions have been lifted. Also, on the economic point as well, well, there is no clear-cut deal on whether Iran shall have the right to charge a toll fee or a transit fee for ships sailing through the Strait of Hormuz. But at the same time, Iran has agreed to suspend any plan to charge transit fee for the duration of 60 days. So now that is a temporary pause of any move to charge transit toll on ships. But the point is, Iran is saying that after the 60 days or during the 60 days, they will use that time to discuss with Oman, who is on the other side of the straits, a framework on how to charge a kind of administrative fee. Well, if the United States is not meeting its financial or economic obligations, which include lifting of sanctions, returning Iran's money, and attracting investments, Iran would claim that it has a moral right and a legitimate right to go ahead with charging a transit fee. Because look, President Trump said that they did trillions of dollars worth of damage to Iran. Most of their infrastructures were blown up. Most of their infrastructures are gone. So if the United States, in the end, decides to renege on these economic parts of the deal, Iran would have no choice than to go ahead with charging a transit fee and doing some other stuff as well. But at the same time, we are going to we have done the job of slicing up the important highlights from the press conference, and we are going to post them on this page. And if you would like, well, you can make references or you can go see for yourselves. So we have brought out those clips in the highlights so that they are easily digested and watched by you. Well, this is again the Burning Mic. Thank you for listening. God bless you.